Try to move you guys over a little. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. I know you're extremely busy, and this is the first presentation that Tiffany and I have done together, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting. We've done a lot of work together, and so it's always good when you can get your brain cells working together, or at least trying to work together. And what we did is we broke this up into two sections. And I will say, Melissa Miller, she was supposed to be here. She's with the Humane Society of Shenandoah County, but she unfortunately is stuck in Indianapolis working, and she's actually working right now, so she wasn't able to join us. But she does have a part in this, so I want to go ahead and give her credit. So as you guys know, I'm the new community liaison for the Federation, and I go out and work with shelters and different rescue groups, and I'm sure I've had a lot of conversations with some of the participants here, either recently or in the past. So if you need anything, reach out to me and let me know. And the first part of this presentation, what I wanted to talk about is the legalities of TNR. You know, we hear a lot of the times just this blanket statement, it's illegal to do TNR. And I want to walk you through that and kind of tease that out and tell you what you can do, what you can do. And if you can't do it, I'm going to tell you how you can stay within the law and do TNR. And then I'm going to talk about best practices, national best practices with that the larger groups follow. And again, these are best practices. I'm not saying that your groups have to do this, but it is something that we follow. So anyway, so I will go ahead and start now. Does my screen look okay right now, Tiffany? Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, so it's understanding TNR in Virginia and beyond, because so much of this, especially the best practices, again, applies everywhere. So we're going to talk about the legalities of TNR in Virginia, best practices, and then how to get started and how to work with folks that are against it. So in order to talk about the legalities, I need to explain, I want everybody to understand in Virginia who is out there and what the shelters are, and break that down. So and I did add another fourth, but it did not say, but I'll talk you through that. Okay, so the first one is a private animal shelter. So a private animal shelter is it's a shelter that they get absolutely no funding from the locality. All of their money comes from donations. So that's a private shelter, and that actually could the private rescues could fall under that also, because a shelter doesn't necessarily have to be brick and mortar. So it could be a rescue organization. Does everybody understand that? So, and you guys, if something just totally doesn't make sense, just shout out really quickly, but we're going to take all the questions all the way at the end. So a public animal shelter, that's the animal shelter that has the contract for the municipality. They get no donations. They're not allowed to take donations, but they may have a friends of group. So let's take an example. Fairfax County. So Fairfax County gets no donations. They have a friends of group, that does a fantastic job, but they are a public shelter. They have the contract. They're not a 501c3. Now, a hybrid animal shelter is a shelter, say Arlington or Alexandria. So those two shelters, they are a 501c3. So they are 50% private, but then they have the contract for the locality. So Arlington County contracts the Animal Welfare League of Arlington to be the shelter for that county and to also supply animal control. And it's the same with Alexandria. Okay, so you have those entities, and then of course you have just and not just, but you have rescue organizations out there that, you know, are foster based, or maybe they have a brick and mortar that they work out of. So let's say Ryan Barker at Squishy Face, you know, he is a private rescue, and a lot of you all have private rescues. Okay, let me jump ahead real quick. Okay, so reason it gets confusing is because of the requirements from VDACs and who is required. So VDACs, if you're reporting to VDACs, you have 4 dispositions: transfer, adoption, euthanasia, and return to owner. But as you see, there is no return to field. So those 4 dispositions have to be applied for any kind of public shelter or a hybrid shelter.
Come on.
Hey, Lori, Counts, could
Yes.
you just mute your can you see it?
I'm looking. Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you, hon. So those are the 4 dispositions. Now, what happened is those who are against TNR, and these dispositions were created years ago before they really thought that anybody would be doing TNR. It never even, I don't think it really even crossed their minds. And it hasn't been changed. And I mean, not for wanting, you know, it's not for our lack of trying, believe me, but it gets knocked down every year. So we would love to put a 5th disposition, but we just haven't been successful yet. So again, the public shelters have those 4 dispositions, and Rob Blizzard, when he was running the Norfolk SPCA, he decided to write the Attorney General and say, in your opinion, is the Norfolk SPCA, which is a private shelter, it gets no funding from the city, are we allowed to do TNR? And this letter, let me see, I'm going to pull it up. This is the opinion letter he got back. Let's see. So this is where I get. All right, so we're going to go here, and there we go. You guys see that letter? So this letter is what came back from the Attorney General's office. And what it basically says, summing it up, is that those organizations that are not funded by the municipality can return cats, because the organizations that are funded by the municipality cannot return those cats because there's no disposition created for that. So in Arlington, we were doing TNR, but we could not return the cats. If we returned the cats, it was considered abandonment, okay? And it's 3.2-6504. So you see that here? With this letter, again, it says that the private shelters and organizations could do it, but the hybrids and the public cannot. So what Arlington does, and I believe Alexandria does this way, but Arlington, when they're doing TNR cats, they are actually, they're doing, let's see, I'm trying to get back to my, so you bring in a cat, and there we go. You bring in a cat that needs to be TNR'd. That cat comes in as a service. So if I'm working at the front desk, you bring in your cat to TNR, I'm not taking it into the population. I'm bringing it in as a service. So it's not going to be one of the 4 dispositions. I don't have to put a disposition for that cat because as a shelter, we never had that cat, okay? Hope that makes,
your
yes.
presentation hasn't popped back up.
What's that?
The presentation hasn't popped back up.
Oh, hold on, let me see. How about that? All right. Thank you for yelling that or saying that, because it's hard to keep track when you're going back and forth. So anyways, so I hope that makes sense. So just to sum it up, a private shelter and that is not getting any kind of funding from municipality or has a contract, and a private organization such as Melissa Miller's, who's the Humane Society of Shenandoah County, they can bring in cats and then go ahead and return them for TNR because they're not under that same ruling. But those that have that contract, they have to bring it in as a service, and then they can do the surgery, and then somebody else has to return it. But again, it gets a little confusing, but it is. So what I'm saying is TNR, when somebody tells you TNR is illegal in Virginia, they are absolutely full of it. Okay. All right. So I want to talk to you about, like, getting started with TNR. We're going to flip that around first. So, every locality, not only in Virginia, but every locality in the country should be doing TNR. Like, I know I will never see it in my lifetime, but I can't even imagine, say 10 years from now, how many localities will be doing TNR, because I look back 10 years ago and NACA, the National Animal Control Association, was against TNR. And now they have a position statement out that I helped write that supports it. And because they realize it is effective and it's the only way to stabilize the cat population. So say you want to start TNR in your community, you need to have some really good tools, and by the tools I mean information, to go to your legislators, your local legislators, your elected officials, because what they care about is saving money. Okay. And Tiffany, can you do me a favor and time me? at about 5 after, or no, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You got
See, this is why Tiff and I work well together. So if so you're going to have all this information. So the cost of euthanasia with housing, feeding, and medicating is $104.84. Now, that is going to vary slightly as you move across the state, but this is including a lot. And this was done by Lori down at the King William shelter. She actually took the time to break all these numbers down because she felt so strongly about it. Average cost of TNRing a cat is $50. Spay or neuter, left ear tip, and rabies vaccine. And you're getting that health check by the veterinarian and staff that cat really probably would not have gotten. As a matter of fact, they're probably getting a better health check than your cat sitting on the couch when it goes to the vet, because this cat is now anesthetized. They can look all over the body, inside the mouth. Sometimes, your cat's not going to let them do that. So again, the difference is $104 to $50. And you look at the numbers, and thank you. And, it really makes a difference. So let's go to best practices really quickly. So let's talk about these different situations, scenarios that you're going to come upon. When you start TNR, you really need to have a game plan when you come across these situations, and also make decisions, have protocols, especially if there's more than one of you doing it, because you need to come to these agreements. So again, these are national best practices. You trap a pregnant cat. I know there are a lot of people that do not want to do pregnant spays, but I will tell you, best practices says go ahead and send that cat for spay. There are plenty of kittens, and why put that cat through probably another litter? I'm sure that all the cats we trap have already had one litter. So friendly cats, you go out there, you see a friendly cat. It's hard not to pull that friendly cat and think, oh, well, you need a home. You need to go to somebody's living room. But, and if you have the resources, if you have a ton of fosters, okay. But what that's going to do is that's going to take your TNR organization and really shift it and take resources away from doing TNR. So you need to know ahead of time, what are you going to do with those friendly cats? And also, is that friendly cat healthy? Is it thriving? Does it have, you can tell they have most of the time multiple caregivers. So unless it's sick or injured or not thriving, best practice, leave it there. Combo testing, for one thing, it's at least $14, and I'm sure that that's gone up. And what are you going to do if you're combo testing all the cats? What are you going to do when you get a positive? Because there's so many false positives out there. So the best practice across the board for the large organizations is combo test if you see symptoms. You want to have the vet figure out why it's what the symptoms are coming from, get a diagnosis. So spay and neuter at what age and what weight? 2 pounds. And you should be able to find somebody. It may not always be close, but 2 pounds, at least 2 pounds, at least 8 weeks. That's when you want to spay and neuter. So kitten TNR, it's become a hot issue lately because in the last 2 years, Virginia, as well as the rest of the country, is just struggling and it's post-COVID. We've got a shortage of vets, and you're doing a colony. Let's say you're doing a colony, and everybody's healthy there. You've got cats that are old enough and big enough to have surgery. As long as everybody's healthy, if you do not have the resources to pull those kittens, if you feel that it's going to put too much of a strain on your group, you can go ahead and TNR those kittens, so return them. Sick, injured cats and kittens, always have a game plan, always know what you're going to do, always have a an amount where you're going to kind of stop at, for trying to help that kitten or cat, or make sure that you've got some really good fundraising ideas. We do have a fundraising webinar coming up, and I'm not sure the date, but that's always a great thing to attend. Everybody wants to raise money. Fostering, again, make sure you have resources. And what we don't want is to have fosters in your group who feel that overwhelming obligation. And, they get too far into it. They get in over their heads. We've seen it multiple times. Make sure you have some protocols in place and continually be out there recruiting people. That could be one, if you have a person who just doesn't want to be boots on the ground, they want to help in some way, have them do some recruitments for volunteers. You'll I think any group will always win with the more fosters they can get. So recovery time after surgery. This is another area that there's a lot of different opinion. National best practice, it's 24-hour recovery. So if the male or female has surgery on Monday, they should be released on Tuesday, unless you have extenuating circumstances. And in that case, you do want to hold them a little extra, but always talk to the vet staff and see what they think. They know best. And just make sure when you're holding them and they're recovering, you want to make sure that they have a lot of peace and quiet. They need the quiet time. And I know a lot of times folks will want to go into the traps, put their hands in there and try to clean and do all this, and that's great. But you want to keep that to a minimum. You don't want to put any kind of stress on that cat. It may make you feel good, but the cat is not going to feel good. That cat is going to feel threatened. Let's see, transporting. When you're transporting back and forth to the vet office, make sure you're doing it in a vehicle or the section of the vehicle that's climate controlled. We do not recommend the back of pickup trucks. Accidents happen. And I know that some groups, you get into a pickle and you can't help it, but you have to make sure that these animals, these cats, are being kept safe. So this is my favorite one. We need to talk about best practices for colony care. And I know all of you know this, so we're gonna go through this really quickly. Okay, so just make sure the area is clean, be inconspicuous. Do not use paper plates. They're going to blow away, and it's going to create an eyesore. And these are the things that, although you all know this, you need to make sure that the caregivers are doing the same thing. Make sure you're talking to them while you're out there, and make sure these cats feel safe, and they're not out in the middle of the public's view. And set up a feeding schedule so that they're not out there lurking around all hours of the day. So when you're out there, people are complaining about the cats. I will tell you, with animal control, one of the things that we did is we gave those folks a voice. Those folks deserve to be heard also. They're not, a lot of times people think, oh, they hate cats. They don't. They just are, they get tired and frustrated because a lot of times their patio furniture is going to be torn up, you know, and they really need to be heard, and it makes such a difference. But these are some deterrents that you can keep. A couple of them keep handy, and a couple of them absolutely cost nothing. The used coffee grounds, go to Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, they save all of the used coffee grounds. They have these huge silver bags, and they save them, especially in the summertime, for folks who are doing gardening. You go in, let them know you're coming back in a couple days to pick it up, no problem. They'll hold it for you. Make sure the trash is being secured with bungee cords, and that is not for the cats. We know who that's for. It's for the raccoons. But the cats are opportunists, and they're going to go in there after the raccoon does the hard work. Scarecrow, it's a remote sprinkler. Have a couple of those handy. You know, they are about, I think right now, last time I looked at one, it was like $35. So that's, honestly, that's not too bad when you're talking about making peace with neighbors. And they're going to keep it temporarily, but it will definitely keep all the animals out of there. So that way the cats are not being blamed for any kind of destruction that the raccoons or anybody else are doing. And then the last that I've got up here is citrus. Any kind of orange peel, it works well. You know, you can cut up an orange, put it outside. If you have an orange that maybe is going a little bad, put that out there. And that and the coffee grinds actually help the gardens grow. And here is this statistic I will always share no matter what I'm talking about. And in Arlington County, where I was chief, and this is when I was against it, I was completely against TNR. They started in 2009, and we had 913 nuisance cat complaints. 2015, we had 47. And a lot of that 47 were folks that were just calling to talk about TNR to see if they could do it. And the cat intake went from 1,276 to 884. But of those 884, a lot of those were transferred in because we did not have the cats in the community that were being brought in 2015 because of TNR. Right now they search for cats to trap because there just are not, you do not see these cats out in the community. So have questions or comments here, but we're going to go ahead and save that for the end. And I hope that explained everything, but we do have some time at the end for the questions and whatnot, so we can talk about that. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my colleague Tiffany Webb, who is amazing with spreadsheets, and she is going to teach you guys so much. And let me do the stop share. There you go.
Perfect. Awesome. Okie dokie. Let's share my screen. we go. Present. All right. It started in the middle. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So I'm hoping everyone can see it pretty well. Okay. Alice, can they see it?
Yeah, it looks great, Tiffany.
Cool. Alrighty, so let me move that. Oh, oh no. Go back. Okay, so my name is Tiffany Webb, and I'm the Community Cat Director for Homeward Trails Animal Rescue, and I lead up the Trails Up program, where we go out and partner with communities in Southwest Virginia, and we help build and execute large-scale TNR programs and events that consist of about 80 to 100 cats during each event. And so for this particular presentation, my plan is to kind of focus on a lot of that consistent stuff, such as the data tracking, your forms, and then it'll all kind of come together with how we build and have had success doing remote TNR. So when we talk about remote TNR, when I'm referencing it, I call it remote for me because everywhere that we are working with Trails Up within Homeward Trails is 8 hours away from my house. So I am building and executing and working to help execute all of these programs for places that are 8 hours away, working on trying to connect with the community, the caregivers, and all of that remote. And then we only spend 7 days in the community once a month to be able to get everything done and in motion. And I say that because a lot of our participants here tonight are probably TNRing much closer to home. And I'm hoping that maybe together we can provide and share some tips and tricks that can help your programs expand where you can network and provide more closer to home, and maybe free up some time through efficient tracking or anything like that. So, okie dokie, we're going to go into that. So just for some more data. So again, this is going to be really data driven and supported, but we have successfully completed 21 large scale operations that consisted of 80 to 100 cats in 2 years' time. And all of this has been able to be completed through proper data tracking. In total, as you can see down here below, that's 1,723 cats. We're able to, at the end of all of our TNR events, we track everything from a community cat to an own cat, to a male cat, to a female cat. If there's any that we haven't been able to identify the gender by the end of the event, we have that. Additionally, these are all the cats that we have provided surgeries for. We have a separate tracking system for anybody that maybe snuck in that was already spayed and neutered, that maybe we didn't catch the ear tip, or maybe they were spayed and neutered and never received an ear tip. So this is every cat that we've successfully TNR'd in these communities. Okay. Also, I do talk very fast, but this session is getting recorded, so everyone can also circle back to that if I say or miss anything, or say it too fast. But for intensive purposes, for your data, you want to have a central place where you can access and store everything. And that's not just for you, but for your team. So we want to be super inclusive to the community, to your volunteers, your board members, whoever's supporting this part of your program, you want them involved. And having a central place that everybody can access is going to be key to kind of help you delegate and spread out and get people involved in what you're trying to do. We particularly use Google Drive. That is the primary source of operations for us. Now, Google has 2 different versions. You obviously have your free Gmail accounts for those starter nonprofits or organizations just starting off. And then there's also Google Workspace. There are some grants, and Google does offer through TechSoup, something where it's nonprofits or free for nonprofits. If you want more research for that, just let me know. But you can do either spectrum, the free one or the Google Workspace. They all offer the same necessities, which the necessities that you're going to want to work from that I'm talking about are going to be your Google Forms, your spreadsheets, and then from there, it's just success. Additionally, Google Drive also, which I really like to provide some balance to my life and profession, a Google Voice phone number. That phone number is an app that links to your email that will help kind of provide that separation from your personal phone number to your nonprofit organization. So that is something that I do highly suggest because TNR is a very is a big need in your community, and once your personal number gets out there, it's hard to take it back. So that's a recommendation that my pro tip for everybody tonight. So in reference to your Google Forms, what I really want to kind of just encourage in some quick tips, your Google Form is your survey that you're going to be posting all over social media. Biggest platform, the universal platform, is going to be Facebook. If you are not Facebook savvy, that is okay. I'm sure there is somebody in connection with you, a friend, a volunteer, someone that is Facebook savvy that can either help you provide or help you directly or kind of help take on that charge, and you can delegate that task. But this Google form is the starting base for everything that you're going to be doing. You're going to collect all of your community information, and you want to be very short with it. The longer your survey is, the longer it takes somebody to fill out something, the more they're going to just get disinterested. So you want to keep it short, very specific options, very few write-in options. The more write-in options, there are opportunities for misspellings, which we'll get to that in a little bit of why that's important. And then also one of the biggest questions you always want to answer or ask is the preferred communication method. And that's obviously the top three: calling, texting, and emailing. My biggest thing for that is, while I do enjoy that personal phone call, that the value that brings, nowadays, what I have recognized is that a lot of people actually do prefer to communicate through text or email. And part of that is because this is my full-time job that I do full-time 9-to-5 situation. And every caregiver that I'm calling during the weekday, during my working hours, is during their working hours. So for them, it's going to be super easy for me to communicate with them how they prefer and schedule a phone call, or if they prefer more texting, maybe they don't live in an area that has good signal. So maybe texting is the easiest thing for them. We're going to work with that. The things on your Google Forms that you want to refrain from using are specific dates and complex questions or two-part questions. And the two-part questions is mostly so that way when we filter things, that way you only are filtering what it is that you want. Specific dates is mostly because, and I learned from error, if you put something on there that says, here's some options that you can choose from of when we're coming to do TNR in your community, this is our estimated schedule for the year, the general public is going to think that this form that they're signing up is confirming them for those dates. Our schedule, when I did that, our schedule changed locations, and I wasn't able to backtrack to everybody as quickly. And so I did get some unfortunate phone calls and emails because they were confused about why we weren't coming. So my recommendation is not to put any specific dates, as the general public might think that that is a commitment that they are confirmed for those dates, and don't put complex two-part questions. So here is our Trails Up general form. Now here's the QR code. So if you want to point your phone at it and look at it on your own screen, be my guest. But these are all the same questions that we have posted right now, just as the example. And the reason for the questions being very specific in my recommendation in this way, Google Forms can link to a spreadsheet. When it links to that spreadsheet, it will apply a timestamp when they submit their survey. It will put everything in their nice columns and rows, and it'll be set up nice and beautiful. And when you have it in a very specific format, I can filter all of my survey. So we have 387 entries, right? I can filter everything based off of where they said they live. Do they live in Wise County, Buchanan County, King William, or Grayson, Carroll, Galax? So I have separate filters at the bottom that it takes it from one and automatically moves it over to another. So that's the recommendation and why it's very important to have very specific questions, very short questions. And it also eliminates the ability for anybody to misspell, because if they misspell something, it will not filter it based off of a spelling. When you are getting and capturing a person's information, if you are an organization that is also registering microchips, keep in mind a lot of your microchip registration companies do prefer everything to be separated in its own individual cell. So to save you time in the future for microchip registrations, the recommendation is to separate your first, last name, street address, city, county, have it all separated. So that way it's easier for you just to copy and paste, saves you time, and it's a lot more efficient that way. Here, and this, if you can see my arrow, this is my boo-boo question, my please list, please list, please list, right? It is super repetitive. It is kind of, it's that complex, it's too wordy, it's very repetitive, don't like it, but I stuck with it. And we're going to change it in 2024 when we update our survey. The reason I kept it this way was because at the start of 2023, we expanded our program to include dogs. More specifically, we were wanting to focus on female dogs. Now, with this repetitive question, I can tell you there's a lot of people that have put in entries where they have just put in random numbers for all of them. And when I contact them, they said they just didn't understand, or they only had one dog. And so they thought they had to put one for all of those. So that's kind of that general recommendation of why you should not put something so repetitive. For me, because I'm the only one managing the questions and filtering, it does work for me. But if there were other people that were overseeing and operating from this survey, it might become a little bit confusing. So I wouldn't recommend it. Spreadsheet. So we went from our Google form. Your Google form is what is going to collect all of that information, everything that kind of allows you to start the communication and start the process. So now we're going to move to, we're ready to start building that TNR event, and let's get everything set up ahead of time. Organization is going to be key. So what we like to do on our end is we have everything separated by what locality that we're working in by year, and then what event or what month we're going to. We do visit Wise County and Buchanan County quite frequently. So every one of those operations has their own monthly folder as well. In those monthly folders, we have the veterinary invoices from each clinic, the volunteer waivers, and TNR waivers. Now, when we're driving 8 hours, we do have a printer that is a part of our supplies, but on your cell phones, a lot of your smartphones nowadays, you can download an app, and there's a lot of variety of apps out there that we use to scan these records right from our phone, email, upload. It makes it super efficient, so you don't have to stress about being in front of a printer or a scanner. You can just use your phone and take pictures that way. And then most importantly is your spreadsheet. So it's a whole nother spreadsheet, but this spreadsheet is your event spreadsheet. And at the bottom, we would recommend having tabs set up. So you have a list building tab, your caregiver tab, your trapping info, end of event summary. And if you're borrowing supplies from anyone in the community that you need to return, that would be a place to kind of recognize that so you can get everything back where it needs to go. Your list building is all of that captured information. Your caregiver info tab for us is everyone that we've confirmed for that trip. So we might only have 50 spots at one clinic and 20 at another or whatnot. But I have a list of 600 cats. So obviously we're not going to be doing all of that. So that is where you pull from your list. You have your specific caregiver list that you're working from to keep everything nice and organized. in case there's anybody who shows up saying that they were confirmed or not confirmed. Hello. Okay, so here's next. So we're gonna groove on into our spreadsheet. So in your trapping spreadsheet, your headers up top, ours is very long, and I do have a sample spreadsheet that I can send to everybody. Please just send me an email. My contact information will be at the end. But the headers up top are very important just to kind of help play out. This first half up here, I like to recognize as this is the event. This is the everything in action. Here we go, we're ready to go. And then the second part down here is everything towards the end of the event. So once we've hit that spay and neuter mark and everyone's going to the clinic, this is where we're updating all of our end of event genders, returns. We also are tracking who was pregnant and things like that. Your headers are important to note that we have obviously your trap number, the trap owner, especially if you're borrowing from a variety of organizations, caretaker's name. We don't add anything else but the caretaker's name, just so that way it doesn't clog up the headers. Trap volunteer in charge. If you have multiple volunteers, it's going to be important to note who is overseeing Trap 5 at Bonnie Sue's house, because that was Homeward Trails trap. And then you want to know the date that the trap was set and your trap status. This yellow, it's going to be a whole column, but this yellow column is counted based off of a count if formula with specific, very short phrases where it's cats in trap that are labeled a community cat, an owned cat. Are there traps still in the field? Who was released because we notified or we noticed they had an ear tip? What traps are left at headquarters? Are there any traps missing, or are there any broken and out of service? Additionally, we like to also note genders. Now, when you're TNRing, we do not recommend, obviously, to spend a whole lot of time trying to get a gender of a cat that might not want you touching it or anywhere near it. However, if there is a clinic that you are working with that says they can only take extra males or this, that, and the other, then it is going to be important because you can flag your genders. And then as you are assigning them a specific vet clinic, if you're working with multiple clinics, you would assign them a count if function. And then as you are filling out your spreadsheet, once you know up here, when you're doing 80 to 100 at a time, it's just going to be much easier for you to say, okay, I've hit my 50 for no more chasing tails. Now I need to work on paw print cats, for your second clinic. Hopefully that all makes sense. So when you are trapping, more data, more spreadsheet working, everything is it's very important to note the safety in your spreadsheet and how that reflects to the general public and the cats that you are caring for and your volunteers. It is most important to make sure that whoever is filling this spreadsheet out stays on top of it. And if they are not filling it out in real time on the spreadsheet, make sure that there's a paper tracker that you can also quickly access and recognize. And this is because the who, what, when, and where for missing people, traps, and cats. So here's my example. If you guys can see here on the row where if it has my arrow, there's column E for trap volunteer in charge. We're going to scroll down to Lori, row 27 and 28. So we see that Lori's traps at the end of this event were still labeled as in field. And maybe we hadn't heard back from Lori and we were worried about Lori. We haven't heard from her. It's a really big county. There's not a lot of good cell signal. Her traps are still in field. It's getting to the end of the day. We're all concerned. We can look back and say, okay, Lori has 2 traps in field. One's at Randy's house, one's at Catherine's house, and they're in B. Lee's trap. And maybe we recognize, or maybe B. Lee has all traps of a certain color or something like that. So it gives us a chance to send a volunteer out looking for a specific trap. We have the address and phone number for the caregiver, so we can call them and see if Catherine is there, what time she left. We know the routes, so that way we can get from each house to be able to follow that path, maybe in case there was an accident on the road or anything like that. So that is going to be really important for you guys to recognize the safety in data, and how it can also help you outside of just numbers is the who, what, when, where. If you are looking at your spreadsheet and you're physically counting so many traps, but on the spreadsheet there's not the same number, you can look to see maybe what mistake happened. Maybe we just didn't click it as from headquarters to cat and trap, things of that nature. It also gives us the ability to hold the description, the gender, and so forth. Okay, so as everyone was looking at the spreadsheet, and I hope you were not feeling overwhelmed, but I can see where it might feel like that. But all of my counters that I have set up for all of the summaries is all using two very specific formulas. And that's on this slide right here. So it is the count if function, and we're just going to kind of go through it. So it is always your equals sign, count if, and then you have your parentheses. This formula counts how many times this specific phrase appears in a specific parameter. So the formula requires your parameter first. It wants to know, where am I looking? And then it asks, what am I looking for? So in that, when we went back to the other counter, you know, we're counting how many times from A to Z cat in trap CC has been displayed. And then it'll tell you 14 times, 13, however many times. And then again, the other version is also using the sum feature, which just adds a certain number of parameters. So you're adding the cells that have numbers from the rows. That's not a good explanation, and I recognize that. I can't think of a better way to explain it, but if you are having a hard time understanding where I am with that, please let me know, and then we can have a one-on-one session, because that was not a good explanation. Okay, so we're making good time. Yes. So I'm just going to kind of roughly talk about our TNR timeline. So because we've been able to put so much work into our outreach through that Google form, our spreadsheet to be able to track information, we have that pending wait list. We're really efficiently working on all of our abilities to kind of focus on that outreach during our TNR timeline. And our timeline is, like I said, it's only 7 days. We arrive and set up, we trap for 2. Our vet requires our cats to stay overnight. So we drive 3 hours to the vet. Surgery and wellness day, we pick them up, bring them home. Day 6, we return all the cats, we clean up, and then we are pulling out day 7 first thing in the morning. So we have a very short timeline, and our ability to work efficiently ahead of time is what has been one of the biggest success for us. As you are looking to build your TNR operation or your program, just like Alice mentioned, you're going to be wanting to look for different partners in your community. I'm not going to spend, I know we're getting close on time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but if you have any questions about planning for your headquarters or things of that, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to go over it with you. But obviously the biggest things that you want to focus on is finding partners to help you along the way, because all the help is better. You never want to work on these things alone, just because it's better to share in the passion and the mission of what you're doing. You want to have a headquarters to work from, and that headquarters must have working climate control. Just like the vehicles that Alice was talking about, your building has to have working climate control just for the comfort of the cats, because they're going to be very stressed as they have been taken out of their normal elements. All of these other necessities are certainly great to have, but the climate control is definitely one of the bigger things. And then of course your vet clinic in the area or wherever you're going to be using. This is a general supply list that, and feel free to take a picture of the screen. Again, I can send it to you, but this is a general recommended basic supply list for anyone doing any kind of TNR operations whether you are starting it through a shelter, a rescue, or maybe you are a individual person who has just started TNRing and learning the ways. So these are some of the basic things that you want to have in your pocket as you are getting started. And the best thing is that these are a lot of things that you can get either cheap from Goodwill or Facebook Marketplace. Again, social media platform is your friend. I have gotten a lot of things donated, from linens to cat traps, puppy pads, any variety of things, just through Facebook Marketplace, where people are willing to donate towards the good cause. So feel free to use that method. This is additional supplies to kind of further your operations, field support. So when you are TNRing, you're always going to come across a variety of different things. So I would say this is very important, safety important, GPS pliers for the cat traps, car kit for if you are in an area that is very rural. Dog leash and treats is because it's very prone that you're going to be working in an area that might have dogs running at large, and they're going to be bothering your cat traps. And so you want to keep those dogs contained and away from your traps to keep a successful program going for you. And then this is coming towards the end of my slide. So at the end of the day, we want to keep things super simple, right? TNR is as simple as we make it, but we have to do what makes sense to us. So the spreadsheet that we've gone over in the Google Forms, it is a lot of technology, yes, but it's going to help you work efficiently and effectively with your community to target the right places at the right time, get your community involved, and that way you can spend more time in the field making the relationships and gaining more support for what you're doing. This graphic up here in the top left of my screen is a standard, very simple graphic that we use to share on social media to gain support for what we're doing for the events. And then also that's what we have used for people to reach out for the survey link. We have two different kinds of setups when we're doing these large scale events. So I'm going to talk about our setup, and then we also have our friends Twin County Humane Society. This is our setup and their setup. Both work. It's what makes sense to us and our operations at the time. Our setup is this top right corner. So we traditionally, because we are trapping such a large quantity and generally have a lot, up to 15 to 20 different caregivers at a time during our events, we like to obviously take things and keep it very numerical, just kind of creating little walkways and pathways, which works great for us. And this is kind of our setup and pre-form. TCHS, so they have this middle setup right here. It's called like the island, is, you know, keep it simple. It's the island method. That's where they're doing fewer caregivers, but larger quantities of cats in those areas. And that's going to be the easiest function for them because they are assigning specific volunteers to one specific island, and everyone in that island knows where they go. As far as your trap tags go, in the bottom right corner, we have Montgomery 11. So that is a quick example of a quick label for the island method. Our trap tags for Homeward Trails is this center picture right here, which, if you guys remember the spreadsheet, so this is all of that information that that first part of the event that I spoke about. This is everything that you're gathering in that moment. So your trap number, caregiver, your trapper, volunteer, the address, description, all of that is all very, you know, kind of consistency with everything of what you're doing. And then another picture of just the layout of the numerical setup during our feeding session, because there's obviously a lot of cats. Okay, like I said, guys, I know I spoke really fast, but I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for questions. And I know it was a general overview, so if there is anybody that has any questions about TNR, data, Google Forms, Google, any of that, please let me know. My email is on the screen, and then you can also reach out to either Alice or anyone in the Federation. If you lose this email, they can certainly put you in contact with me. I have a lot of blank forms, TNR combo waivers, paper tracking data forms that you can use that also mirror the Excel spreadsheet. And then I have a blank template spreadsheet as well for anybody who wants assistance with that too. Okay.
Thanks, Tiffany. That was a great presentation, and I warned you guys, she's amazing with the spreadsheets and amongst other things. Does anybody, we can go ahead and take some questions now. And I did go through while Tiffany was presenting, and I went through the chat and answered some questions. And I know there was Lori Counts. Where's Lori Counts? So, okay, so you're in Culpeper and Madison County, or, right?
Unmute. Yes.
Okay. So a lot of times, what we have found, it is so hard to find vet appointments right now. It's getting a little bit better, but I mean, I think the only, sort of lemonade to all that is that, if you're not getting in, somebody else is, so there's another animal being spayed or neutered. So, it's a good thing.
Actually,
But
excuse me, my comment was that we can't find any prices less than $100. We do 20 to 22 cats a week, and we take the cats to Fredericksburg, SPCA. We've been working with them for almost a year, but they're $100. Anacera, I believe, is more than 100, Manassas and Harrisonburg, and we can't use CSPCA anymore. So we don't have any place that charges
Right.
dollars here.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think that what we have found, because we're doing anywhere from 75 to 100 as a goal, but sometimes we're also doing 110, right, Tiffany? I mean, it's if we have an opportunity to snatch a cat up, that cat's going with us. But we do plan this out ahead of time, way ahead of time, and sometimes we are driving like 3 hours, 3.5, and then of course, if you hit a backup, it's it could be 5 hours, and it's as hard on the humans as it is for the cats. But I know that what happened was when we were in King William, we had this trapping set up, and it was going to be 100 cats. It was a huge clinic, and the vet clinic that was doing it couldn't do it anymore. They called us. I think it was like 4 or 5 days before they were going to do surgery, and said, we can only do like 40 of the surgeries. And at that point, we knew that it probably would not be worth it for all of us to go over and do 40 surgeries. So we were trying to break it down. And then we started calling folks. We started calling hospitals. And we ended up using a hospital in Maryland, just over the 301 bridge in Charles County. And we called them, and they were able to, it's a large spay neuter hospital. It's Last Chance Animal Rescue has Paw Prints Animal Hospital, and they were able to do those surgeries for us. It was more money. I think it was I think they charged 65 for males, 75 for females, but it was about just trying to get them anywhere. And I think that if you can get appointments set up ahead of time, go ahead and get those, and then try to even work with other groups and see if this surgery, those hospitals can work out. If you guys each bring in a certain amount, they'll do so many. Or if you buy the vaccines, it's hard, but you may have to go drive a couple hours to get those deals. It really is hard, and we know that. But again, that $50, that's current information, it's current data, it's the average throughout Virginia of what you're going to pay. But it is, I get it, Lori, it is frustrating.
I'm actually
Did it-
frustrated. I'm just saying that our group is already driving an hour. We do this twice a day, and then we're doing this every week. So we can't really expect people to drive their own vehicles 2 or 3 hours or 6 hours if they stay down there. That has a big cost too. And we just don't have volunteers that would do that. It doesn't work. Let me just say it doesn't work for our program. And we're on track to do
Sure.
1,000 cats this year. So I think
Wow,
we're
that-
doing pretty
that's
well.
a big number.
Yeah, it is a big
That's-
number. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge number. That's a huge number. And maybe we can have Lori, maybe you and I can have a conversation, and maybe we can, not that you haven't looked, but maybe we can try to find somewhere that is closer. And maybe, how many are you sending? So you're doing this, you're going to and from twice a,
Right. Well, it's, yeah,
Okay.
because it's Fredericksburg, it's about 1 hour and 15 minutes. So one person collects the cats in the morning, drops them off. We pick them up in the afternoon. We hold them overnight, the night before and the night of. So,
Okay.
and
And that's 5 days a week?
no,
Did you say 5 days?
no, I'm saying we do about 22 to 25 cats a week. And we've done about 1,000 cats this year. So our appointments are set up for the whole year.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that works for us because we don't want to be looking around at the last minute wondering if we're going to find a place to take the cats. We know how many
Absolutely.
we're going to have. So that's
Okay.
just, yeah.
Okay. And how many times a week are you doing that? Once?
Once a week.
Okay.
Occasionally
Okay.
we will have a few extra pregnant moms that we might take somewhere else. But that's not a regular thing. That's just sort of based on what would happen that week.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Lori, if you definitely want to connect later, definitely let us know. We can see if we can troubleshoot and maybe help provide some good marketing graphics, maybe to get the community involved. There's lots of people looking for court-ordered community service. So that could also be something. If you have a van, but you're just needing a driver, there's lots of opportunities through that. Or if you're looking for both a van and a driver, let's connect and continue seeing what we can kind of help create some new things for you.
Sounds really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
There's nothing worse than someone asking a question and not having a immediate answer or solution, but we will definitely help you try to work that out. So did anybody else have any questions?
Crickets.
Wow.
They're
We're
just
good. We must be good, Tiffany.
data. It's the data. Oh, thanks, Stephanie. Stephanie Kordick is she's on here. She's from TCHS, the Twin County Humane Society, and Galax that we work with, and their organization is like our model community that we've piloted and had a lot of success with. So thanks, Stephanie. That means a lot.
And if you decide, listen, we feel crazy enough to try to do a 50 or 100 TNR event. I just worked with Community Cat Alliance in Winchester and went there and helped them out, and they paid for all the surgeries. I was able to find a hospital to do, it ended up being 76 cats. We were going to try to do 100, and then we had to drop it back to 75 because of the ability of the hospital. So we snuck in that extra one, and they didn't notice till later on, and they didn't care. So if that's something that you would like to do, reach out to us, because we Tiffany and I both love to talk about TNR. I mean, you guys know for years, you know, I've been, as somebody said last week, I've been gospelizing TNR for years. And it's just, I think it is such an essential program for every community, every shelter, and we really need to get more folks on board. And I think that's also, I think because of all of the TNR being done in Virginia, I do think, in my opinion, that that's why we saw a much later kitten season than we did last season, and meaning 2022. Folks were reaching out to me saying, I don't know what's happening. We're not getting kittens. And I said, use this time to find fosters. Use this time to bulk up on your supplies, because when it hits, it's going to hit. And it did hit. So anyhow, I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if you want to follow up on emails, please feel free. And I think if not, Tiffany, do you have anything else?
Nope, I'm just typing my email in the chat. So I typed it in the chat. So if anyone has any emails, that is my email address that you guys can reach out.
I'm going to follow suit and put mine in there also. I will do, let's see. All right, everyone, thank you so much. And have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for the info. Appreciate it.
Thank you.